Thanks very much. So I've got a few slides, so let me share my screen. Basically, what I thought we'd do is just keep it quite free-flowing, do a bit of a Ask Me Anything. So basically, I've got some initial questions that I get asked all the time. So I've done some slides on those. I'll whiz through those. As I'm going through them, if you've got any questions, pop them in the chat. And then once I get to the end of the slides, we'll just work through those questions. But as far as I'm concerned, it's like an hour where people get to pick my brain. So the stuff we do is all around social media. We do social media management for people, coaching, training, but we also look at blogs and email marketing as well. So, you know, anything like that. I'm starting to get in questions around podcasting and stuff too. So it really is just ask me anything. If I don't know the answer, I'll tell you, or I should be able to direct you to the right places. So let's crack on. And like I said, these are questions that we just get asked over and over again. When it comes to social media, there are so many options that, you know, people are sort of unsure of where to have a presence. And especially in the early days, it's kind of, you know, because it's free, we kind of think we need to be everywhere. But what you really need to do is think about your business and who you're selling to, and make sure you're picking the right channels for the right reasons. There's nothing worse than landing on a YouTube channel that's been running for 10 years and it's only got one video on it with 3 views. So, you know, if you're going to create a Facebook page, you want to put some effort behind that to make sure it becomes an established presence. I was talking to a client yesterday and they've created a Facebook page because they want to engage with NHS workers. So they thought just creating a Facebook page would suddenly produce that. Well, that's not how it works. You know, you don't produce this profile and it sits there gathering people for you. You have to work them. So don't go mad and produce all these presences everywhere: Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Pinterest, etc. Start with one, do really well, do a good job there, commit to it, and then bring on the second, then bring on the third. And like I said, you know, don't have a whole ream of them if they're going to be irrelevant. We work with a lot of recruiters, and I think the best example of this is we're working with an oil and gas recruiter. So if you imagine the people they're trying to attract are, you know, men, you know, it's a very male-dominated world. They're going to go out on rigs. It's, you know, it's a very sort of dirty, mucky job as well. And they had a presence on Pinterest, which just makes absolutely no sense when you consider their target audience. So like I said, just think about where do you need to be and work through those systematically. Make sure that you're creating a presence that you're committing to. Part of that is knowing your audience, okay? And there will be some sectors that are far more embracing of social media than others. So if I think about things like legal and accountancy, when I talk to people in those worlds, they don't think of LinkedIn as being a social network. Okay, no, I don't do social media, but actually they do spend quite a bit of time on LinkedIn, and that's how they get their information. So you really have got to think about that sort of, and it's going back to basics, thinking about your personas, think about your avatars, think about your ideal clients. Not who your best client is right now, because your best client is probably more like a best friend. Think about who your ideal client is and really kind of, you know, go for that. Well, where will my ideal client be online? What sort of information are they going to be wanting to consume online as well? It's really, really important if you want social media to work for you, is you talk about the right things in the right places. Equally, if you know that you're going to come across people that you should be targeting that are, you know, they're going to be all over social, don't feel like you have to keep up with it. Okay, you know, don't just throw content out there 20 times a day because you know that's what people expect. It's much better to put quality out there rather than quantity, and it has to be manageable. It has to have a purpose. We don't want to just produce noise, because that's how we very quickly put people off of our brands and also become a bit self-destructive within the algorithms as well. a lot of the time people will, they'll have the conversation with me and they're basically saying, well, what's the point? Okay, so you think I should be using Facebook for my business, but why? What's the purpose of it? And equally, sometimes I will talk to a client. So the oil and gas recruiter, my question to him then was actually, what is it you expect to get out of that Pinterest account? You need to have very clear objectives of what you want to achieve out of your social media. So that is just, it's about thinking about that platform. For me, LinkedIn is all about lead generation. Facebook's about building a community around our brand. Instagram, I'm not going to get business out of, but people are going to expect me to be there. So therefore it's a reassurance tool. As a digital marketing agency, if we weren't using Instagram, people would think, well, why are they not tapping into that? What's going on? So you need to think about actually, what is it we want to achieve, and think of it channel by channel as well as your overall strategy as well. That will also affect how much effort you put into these channels. I know LinkedIn is where I need to spend 80% of my time from a marketing perspective as an individual. 20% of my time is going across sort of Facebook, and I still need to do Twitter, I still need to do YouTube, but actually the effort we put into that, it's in line with what we're going to get out of it. Okay, and that's just thinking about my business. So think about, like I say, who your ideal client is, where they're likely to be, and how you can reach them, what sort of responses you're going to get from them across your social media channels, so that you are maximizing on each individual presence. Oh, clicked too fast then. Okay, here's a good one. So where's the return on investment? So having a Facebook page, a LinkedIn account, obviously it's free unless you start to get into sort of paid advertising and premium profiles and that sort of thing. And everyone wants to know where the return's going to be. Everyone wants to know, well, I've spent this number of hours, so I'm going to put this value on it in pounds. Where's the return? And quite often people are looking at things like, well, 10,000 people saw my post on LinkedIn. I've had this many views on Facebook, and my live webinar had this many views on Facebook. Well, actually, it's all irrelevant if we're not getting them back to your website. And even if you're running something and you can see, well, I've had a click here on Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn, that doesn't mean that they've actually waited for that page to load and landed on your website. So it's essential you're measuring your success on your website. You're thinking about your leads coming in, and quite often the ROI isn't monetary. The return on investment should be that your organic search results are increasing, the traffic to your website in general is increasing, you're seeing more hits come through from social media, but we're measuring it at the website end of the journey. And that really is essential. I'd also say that's probably one of the biggest mistakes people make, is they think, oh great, I've got this many likes on my Facebook page. Who cares? If you've got a load of people liking your page on Facebook, but none of them are buying from you, what does it matter? It's about getting that conversion. So we've got to be careful. We've got to think about where we're measuring that ROI as well. Some people feel a little bit nervous about social because they're thinking, if I'm going to put all this information out, what happens if I talk about this particular client who's left me this fantastic recommendation or whatever? What if people steal my clients? And my argument to that is, look after them well enough in the first place, they won't go. You've got to have a bit of confidence in your own service and your proposition and those relationships that you build to not allow that to paralyze you when it comes to your online marketing as well. The more you can shout about the businesses that you're working with and the testimonial that comes through, and the fact that you're actively working as well right now, it is quite a statement in itself. The fact that you are delivering your service, you have got a client base, and it also produces some trust. So never be afraid of putting your information out there online. The other thing I would say is, quite often yeah, I have a hit. I always have a hit list. My hit list is, you know, the 10 clients I want to have. Now, I'd say generally I know who those 10 people are using right now, if they are using someone. And it's got nothing to do with what's going on social media. You just, you know, in some businesses where it is a bit cutthroat like that, you know which, you know, who's using who and that sort of stuff. That's what the information you should have anyway. So the fact, you know, your competitors will have that information too. So this shouldn't be a fear that ever paralyzes any of us when it comes to our online marketing. I'm also often asked about, you know, well, can you show me a campaign that's worked? Which always makes me laugh, because imagine you're my client, we've come up with this really clever campaign. Would you want me to share that with the rest of my clients? Would you like me to keep it unique for you and, you know, top secret for you? So it's always a bit of a funny one. But when I think about the campaigns that work, they really do follow this very simple system, okay? And it's about creating awareness at the top of our funnel, which is very much where your social media comes in. And we have to understand that that is what we're going to get out of it. It is that top of funnel stuff, okay? If you think about the dating game, okay, at this point, we're downloading a dating app onto our phone and just creating a profile and starting to click through. That's what the social media is doing for us. It's getting us in the game. A lot of people want to put that effort into social media, and they create a Facebook page and they've posted once, and they want to go straight to the bottom of the funnel, to the point where they've been, you know, married for however many years and got 2.4 kids, and forget about this whole courtship that needs to happen in between. So if you've created content that is designed to create awareness for your brand and to communicate to a cold audience, if you are doing things like blogs and downloads and that sort of stuff that you can talk about on social media to attract those people to your brand as well, once you've done those two things, you can then start to retarget. So whether that is using paid ads to retarget, or as simple as, well, now I've created this engaged audience, whether it's through your Facebook page or maybe a Facebook group, that you can start to retarget them essentially by feeding them organic content as well. You know, if you can get them onto your database and you're drip feeding them email campaigns, that sort of thing, and very quickly, all of a sudden, we are at the bottom of the funnel at that point, and we are going to be in a situation where we can make those conversions. But your social media has we have to really understand the role it plays within that. Like I said, the top of the funnel is really strong. And as you come further down that funnel, you need to make sure that you've got your other marketing systems working in place as well. So it's very strategic. I always think about your social media as, in fact, I use an analogy. I talk about going and buying a house. You go and view these properties and you fall in love with the kitchen, or the garden's fantastic. It's something to do with the architecture of the building, something like that. And that's what you fall in love with. That's the thing that makes you buy the property. Nobody ever says, oh, the cement is orgasmic. You know, nobody kind of notices that bit. And realistically, that is your social media. It's the bit that holds it all together. Okay, it's when you're working on campaigns and you've had this idea, and I'm going to produce this ebook or this guide, I'm going to invest and create a video. Actually, your social media is what gets that out to the world. Okay, so really be very realistic about the role that social media should be playing for your business as well. Another thing that comes over all the time is, what happens if I get a bad review? What if someone leaves something on Google and it's a 1-star review, and it puts them off being out there? The reality is, if people are going to say something negative about you online, it doesn't matter whether you've got a presence or not, they're going to do it. At least if someone leaves a negative review on my Facebook page or on my Google listing, I can respond. I can manage that interaction. Okay, sometimes it's someone that's never used your service, and I think there's a roofing company in the States called Green Umbrella. Luckily it hasn't happened to us, but someone could very easily have a bad experience with them, Google Green Umbrella and leave the crappy review on our listing instead. Well, then we have to deal with that, but at least publicly it can be dealt with. We can report it to Google, and there are instances where things like that get removed, but it doesn't usually happen, to be fair. But what we need to do is put ourselves out there, and every time we deliver a good experience, have a process in place so that we get those people to leave us positive reviews. If we focus on building some positive testimonial recommendations, reviews online, if we do get a bad one at some point, there should be enough positives to balance out the negative. So again, this shouldn't be something that stops us promoting our businesses online. Who's using Twitter? So it's really interesting that if I go back probably 4 years ago, there was a lot of interaction and engagement on Twitter. We'd look at Google Analytics results and see a lot of traffic coming through from that platform. Whereas more recently, we don't see people clicking through from there anymore onto websites. It's become far more of a broadcast channel, so that the whole tone of it has really changed. However, it is still as important as ever to have a presence on Twitter. But again, be mindful of what we expect to get out of it. For a lot of our clients right now, I'm saying to them, well, if you're in a B2B business, you should be on Twitter. You should aim for one update a day and, pre-plan it. Don't, it's about having a content strategy, and probably not so much on the interaction engagement side on Twitter right now. Each of those tweets are indexed by Google. They do have an impact on your organic search traffic. And I'm not saying that because I've read it in a report somewhere. I'm saying it because we've managed Twitter for our clients when it was in its heyday and seen the results of it, seen it drop off. And as part of that response, we've gone, okay, we're going to move that focus away from Twitter. And just, some clients have gone, actually, no, I just want to stop it. And when they've stopped it, their organic search results just took a nosedive. And it wasn't people actually clicking through from Twitter itself. It was just, actually those search results, those hits coming through from Google and Bing, etc., that actually dropped off. We turned Twitter back on, and all of a sudden things seem to level out again. So, I'm very passionate about the fact that we do integrate Twitter into our marketing strategy. But like I said, if you're spending an hour every day on Twitter, you're probably spending at least 30 minutes too long. So like I say, it's about understanding what you're getting out of it, and watching those stats as well to make sure you're putting your efforts in the right places. People ask me all the time about whether or not they should be on Instagram. It's a really funny thing, Instagram, because all you can expect to get out of it at this point in time, and I'd say for 90% of the businesses we work with, this is true, all you're going to get out of it is brand awareness. You can't put a price on brand awareness. So if you're looking for a return on investment when it comes to Instagram, don't, because you're not going to be able to measure it, other than I've got this many follows and I've had that many impressions. But like I said, it's, all of that really, it makes you feel good because you've had X number of likes. It doesn't necessarily bring you business. The audience on Instagram has really changed, especially over the last 12, 18 months. So whereas we kind of thought of it as being that's where the kids hang out, well, those kids are now all over TikTok. And where their mums and dads and, responsible adults, we'll call them, have kind of followed them onto Instagram to see what the kids are up to. Kids are now they're moving across to TikTok, and we're left with this kind of like 30+ audience now on Instagram. So if you've sort of thought, no, I'm not interested in it previously, it's not for me, I probably would have agreed with you. But right now you need to start thinking, okay, right, well, actually, are my target audience spending more time on Instagram now than they are on Facebook? Do I need to look at bringing that into my strategy? I'd say anyone that is, if you're in a B2C business, Instagram is going to be a really good place for you to be spending time. And again, it's like looking at things like the functionality of stories on Instagram, that sort of stuff is going to be really key. you don't want to be on there and not part of that Instagram community. It does give you opportunities to engage with people on a local basis as well, under the Discover, which is like the magnifying glass on the screen. So, you know, it's worth creating, even if it's just a personal account initially, just creating that and having a bit of a play and understanding actually how it works, what those engagement opportunities are. What I would say is the Instagram audience is very fickle. So the last thing you want to get hung up on there is how many followers you've got, because you'll get 20 followers today and 18 of them will unfollow you tomorrow, because everyone's just after that follow all the time. So, you know, like I said, it's somewhere that it should almost be like a repository for you. Okay, so, you know, should you be using it in your business? Very much depends, you know, what sector you're in, if you're B2B, if you're B2C. But I do feel like it's something that in 12 months' time, I'd be saying it's going to be a no-brainer to be on Instagram, because that's just where I see that platform going. The other thing as well, if you have success on Facebook and you're thinking about branching over to Instagram and you've got the budget to spend on advertising, you can test the waters there by investing minimum £1 a day for your Facebook ads. Do some testing, spend 50 quid running adverts on Instagram and just see what sort of engagement you get on those as well. You know, just if you're getting the likes, etc. And you don't need to have an Instagram account to run ads on Instagram. So if you're thinking, actually, I don't want to take on the responsibility of another social media platform for my brand, but I can see an opportunity in the Instagram audience, that might be the way you choose to go. We've got clients that do that. They've run campaigns maybe 3-4 times a year, and at the kind of the peak of that campaign, they'll invest in adverts for about 4 weeks on Instagram so that they're not missing out on any audience there. This is something that I come up with again and again. So people say, yeah, but you know, why isn't Facebook bringing me any business? Why isn't LinkedIn? Why isn't this? Why aren't my blogs bringing me business? You know, and you know, I've been writing all this content for my blog, but I've not had any leads from it. You've written 2 articles in the last 12 months, you know, and they were both talking about your own business. They weren't actually giving any value. So, you know, I always sort of say, you know, you need to make sure you're targeted. You need to make sure that you are human in your approach. And right now, that's really easy because we've got no choice other than to be transparent right now. So that being human is really, really key. You know, you turn up for the networking meetings that you go to, you know, you're in the queue having breakfast in the hotel, or you will be in a few months, a few weeks, you know, you build those relationships based on those human interactions, okay, those social engagements. But what we need to do is take that social engagement that happens in person and recreate that on social media. And sometimes people forget that, you know, it's social. So how do we bring that in? It needs to be the real you and not this kind of invented you in that as well. I think it's really important you think about the perception you want to create. So if you're in a crowded room and, you know, someone in the distance, you're not sure who they are, but you can hear them saying, oh, you know, Christina, she's the, how does that sentence end? Okay, and actually, if the content you're putting out there starts to create that perception, it will work for you. You will start to get those leads in. You need to be engaging, okay? And by that, I don't mean I'm going to say something and everyone's going to go, wow. I mean that when someone says something, you come back with a response. You know, my mother used to say to me, Christina, you don't have to have the last word. Well, she lied. I do every single time. If I put something on LinkedIn and someone comments, I need to have the last word. On Facebook, I need to have the last word. I need to keep those conversations going. And again, it's that when people say, oh, it is a real person and they are really there, that's what speeds up the return on your efforts. And also, you know, just making sure you follow up. You put something on LinkedIn, you've had 10 likes on it. well, those people that liked your post, have you sent them a message? You know, is there someone in those 10 likes that actually you should jump on the phone to, and your ring is kind of like, oh, you know, thought I'd ring and say hello. I saw you liked my post, thanks for that, and then just have a bit of a chat from there. And it's sometimes with the social media bit, it really is that follow-up bit that people miss as well. We kind of think we're going to put a post out, people are going to respond to it, and then they're going to come to us to buy our stuff. And it's great if you're consistent and you know, 10 years of adopting these practices and implementing these strategies. I have a constant stream of inbound inquiries off of the blog, off of LinkedIn, off of Facebook, but we've been doing this consistently for 10 years. So if I've just started yesterday and I've put one post out, I can't just sit back and wait for the leads to come in and complain when they don't happen. It's got to be consistent, and it's got to be constant as well. We talk about, you know, doing one update every day on LinkedIn, and people go, oh, you know, don't you think that's a lot of content? No, I don't, because only a percentage of your audience will see that piece of content each day. And if you're posting at different times of day, you're going to have different parts of your audience seeing that content. So that consistency is absolutely key. Like I said, I literally had a conversation with someone this week that said, oh, you know, we produce all this content, but, you know, we've stopped because it doesn't work for us. And when I looked at their blog, there were literally 2 articles on there in the last 12 months. And they thought that that was a lot. Now, you know, I would be saying blogging, you know, twice a month is the ideal. You can get away with once a month. If you don't like writing, do an audio recording, okay, and produce content that way. Do a video. I've got one of my clients who, he's got a lot to say, but he can't sit down and write anything. And if he does something on video himself, he feels really uncomfortable. So he's now arranging like interviews with some of his clients and some of his connections, that kind of stuff. And he records that as a video once a month, and that's going out on his blog. So there's lots of different ways around it to make sure it works. It isn't something that happens overnight. You've got to commit, and committing isn't, I'm going to do this for 3 months and turn it off if it doesn't work. You know, you've got to think consistently, and, you know, 6 months, 12 months as a bare minimum, really, for you. If you're going to start, I'm going to do an update on LinkedIn every day and see if Christina's right, you need to commit to doing that for 6 months, and then tell me, actually, oh yeah, it hasn't worked for me, because I'll show you at that point that you're wrong, because I know it works. There's a lot of things that need to happen. So it's essential you make a plan and you stick to that plan. One of the things that we've started doing this year is every quarter we produce like a template marketing planner that you can download from the website. It's not massive, there's not loads of detail, it's literally an A4 sheet, and you can just sort of, you know, answer the questions, you know, drop in some thoughts into some boxes, and actually then you've got a plan you can stick to. There's loads of tools out there, and you need to make sure you're using them. So, you know, things like scheduling tools, you know, for the writing, you know, I hate writing. I have to write the blog every week. I absolutely detest it. So I've got a little voice recorder now, and I'll rant for 5 minutes into that and then put it into some software that will transcribe it for me. It's turned something that would take me 3 or 4 hours at a time into a job that takes about 45 minutes now. Now, some people love writing, so that's not going to be a problem for them. But if you're like me, then I'll say I've got some strategies I can share with you on that. If you like writing, if that is your thing, think about guest blogging for other people as well, and starting to tap into their networks. There's all these tools out there you can be using. So yeah. And if you're finding there's something in your online strategy that you're really struggling with, ask me, ask Pam, who you'll see in the meetings as well. You know, there's probably about 150, 200 tools that we are using regularly, week in, week out, that do lots of different jobs, that there's going to be something we can sort of, you know, suggest to you to help you to make this a bit easier. Obviously, if you need help with this stuff, Then, you know, there's lots of providers within the network. I'll say we do the social media piece, particularly, but, you know, obviously, you know, Kevin does video, there's copywriters, there's, you know, all sorts of people in the network. Sometimes you just need that extra bit of support, and we have to recognize, I think you have to recognize what you're not good at and get rid of that. But you also need to recognize the stuff that you really love doing and you spend way too much time on, because actually maybe sometimes you have to get rid of that bit as well so that you become more efficient in this activity. So like I said, there's a lot of things that I can suggest to you, and if you go to any sort of marketing seminar, webinar, conference, people throw all this stuff. You should be writing blogs, you should be on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. Podcast is the thing now that everyone's pushing as well. Okay, but what's the one thing that you should do? And I always say it comes down to your blog on your website. Now think of blog as functionality. Okay, this is a piece of content that's been added to your website on a regular basis that Google can come along and eat up. Okay, that's what we want to create. Could be a written piece, and I'd say, you know, 500 words is a bare minimum. Could be a video, and I've already mentioned the client that does the video interviews. He has a VA that transcribes that video and creates some like show notes, so there's some written content with that as well. But essentially he goes on an appointment, he has a chat with someone like Paul, for example, and there's maybe 3 or 4 questions in that interview. That video goes off to someone to transcribe and put on his website for him. It's become a very slick process and not a time heavy process either. Okay, but that blog, once it's there, that piece of content, it gives you something to share on your social media that's leading people back to your website. And when they're on that page, you've then got call to actions to take them to other bits of your website where you're going to make your sales. You know, there'll be call to action there for them to sign up for your update, you need your newsletter, or whatever you want it to be. Maybe there's a call to action there for them to download something from you where they have to give you some data as well. So that blog really should be the core of your online strategy. If you're thinking, I don't have time to do all of this social media stuff, it's all so overwhelming, just focus on your blog for now. Get that right. And every time you put an article out there, make sure you put it on LinkedIn. If you're doing nothing now and that's all you do, and you do 1 blog a month, I guarantee 6 to 12 months, you'll have started to get readership on those articles. You'll have started to get people coming back to you, engaging with those posts as well. So it really is a core part of any online strategy. So they're the questions that I get asked all the time, whatever rooms I'm in, whichever. We work with a lot of recruiters, so if I'm in a room full of recruiters, or when I've been to the BuzzCon meetings as well, they're the things that come through again and again and again. But what other questions do you guys have for me? What's come through? I'll open up the chat and have a look. Right, so I'm gonna have to read through now all of the chit chat, aren't I? Let's have a look.
Probably not.
Wouldn't Christina?
Yeah, the questions are only coming through now. So Jill, you've got a question for Christina. Do you want to unmute yourself and ask?
Yeah, so Christina, you said about posting articles. So I post on Medium and other places, and I do blogs on my website, and I also put articles on LinkedIn. So which is the best way? Because I understand on LinkedIn, for example, that they like you to stay on the page and that they don't like external links.
Mm-hmm.
But you seem to be saying it would be better to do a blog on your website and then post a link publish the link. Which is better?
Always website first, because you want Google to see that that content belongs to your website. So definitely always on your website first. From there, yes, immediately take that link and share it on your social media. What you can do is, it depends how technical you want to get, okay, and how. There is an argument that LinkedIn wants you to stay within LinkedIn. So if you create that post, and you add in that external link, taking people back to your website, it's going to restrict how do people see that post. It's going to restrict the reach. So people do things like they'll use an image and they'll put the link in the first comment, or they'll edit the post and put the link in later and things like that. And I think if you've got that much time on your hands, then fair enough, do it. Okay. For me personally, I'm busy running my business. So if I'm going to lose 100 people seeing my post or 20 people seeing my post, for the time it takes me to faff about with it, I'm not bothered. Okay, what we do, so the blog goes on your website, you share it socially, okay, and however you choose to do that, great, but it's a regular post. Then either a week later or on a monthly basis, I would add it as a published article on LinkedIn. Okay, now published articles, if I go back 3-4 years, you'd publish an article and I would get thousands of views on it really, really quickly. Okay, whereas now you publish an article and you might get 50. In terms of the reach of those, they've really, really dropped off. We produce a lot of content. So now, rather than publishing every single article, we're just doing one published article a month, and there's a link to all of our blogs within that article. It's a bit more of a roundup. The published articles were great because they were sticky on your LinkedIn profile as well. But to be honest, they're not as sticky as they once were. At the minute, LinkedIn is rolling out something called a featured section on your LinkedIn profile. So not everyone has it yet, but if you've added that blog as a post on LinkedIn, you can actually feature it on your profile, which just means it's nice and visual. You've got this bigger section with your recent content in it.
I think
like Medium, etc. Again, I would leave it at least 5 days before I put that piece of content on Medium so that it's getting indexed on my website first.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much.
Okay, Charles, you've got your hand up.
Oh.
Unmute yourself, Charles.
Oh, my bad, sorry. When you said about videos, like video yourself and then put it on your blog, are you saying to transcribe it first and put both on, or?
Yeah, so people will use that content in different ways. Okay, they'll eat it up in different ways. Some people will watch it when, if forget we're in lockdown for a minute, just go back to normal life. They might be on a train watching it on their commute. Okay, they might have it playing whilst they're cooking dinner. Other people don't want that, they want to read it. Okay, so it's up to you how you do it. I've got some clients where it's like a write-up of what's in the video, and I've got other clients where it's what I describe as show notes. So at 2 minutes 53, Christina discusses transcribing video. So people can then fast forward and just take in that particular bit of the content. So it's about how you want to present it.
Okay, bro. Cheers.
Okay, Barrett, you've got a question for Christina.
Yeah, Christina, the more I listen to the experts about social media marketing and how we should conduct ourselves and the kind of things we need to do, I mean, I've got to say that I'm not prolific in this arena at all. I'm really old school. But it seems to me that we're dealing with dangling goalposts, because no sooner have you sort of formulated a campaign, a strategy, or an idea of how you should conduct yourself in social media arena, that the whole thing changes, and then we're back to sort of trying to reassess ourselves. I mean, is there a plan that we should be following? Is there a sort of guidelines that we could follow to say, well, okay, this is what you need to do, this is what will achieve results, etc. But I'm sitting here in my little home office and I'm thinking, got it, I'm going to do this. Next week it's all gone to pot again because everybody's changed the goalposts.
So it's constantly changing, 100%. So I would never call myself an expert, purely because tomorrow LinkedIn does something. LinkedIn live video, I'm not an expert in LinkedIn live video because I still don't have it. I can't use it firsthand. You know, so for me, I'm as much as I know about this world, it's constantly changing. However, the foundations are always going to be in place. You need to know who you're targeting, and you need to understand how you can give them value. Okay, and actually those, if you constantly come back to those two things, whether you're putting content on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram or whatever, if all you're doing is your blog, it comes down to how can I give my target client value? And it's not about, I should word that differently. It's not about the value I can give you. It's about the value you need from me. Okay, and that's the thing. So, I mean, your audience are business owners, aren't they?
Yes.
Okay, and sort of what, like 50 users and less, or bigger companies?
Well, let's put it this way, it'll be 20 users plus.
Okay, so definitely a LinkedIn thing. You know, the people in those roles that have the responsibility of their data security, you know what's important to them. They're techie, I would imagine. So they're unlikely to be liking photos on Facebook. They're more likely to be reading stuff on Twitter and LinkedIn. So you go, right, you know, it's just me doing all this work, so that's where I'm going to focus my efforts. And actually, I don't need to worry about what the changes are on Facebook. I just need to worry about making sure my content is right for my audience, and I'm leveraging those two social media channels. Like I said, you know, people get completely overwhelmed because they're trying to deal with 10 different things at once. Whereas actually, if you're literally learning how to juggle, you'd learn by doing 1, then 2, then 3 balls, and on and on and on. So why don't we approach social media in the same way? Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Barrett. Stephen Mather.
Hi, thanks, Christina. It's really good, really interesting and thorough. One of the things I'd like to think that I was reasonably active on social media, in particular LinkedIn. I've had some really good results i.e. paid work through LinkedIn over the last couple of months in particular. How do you think is best to go about getting more work, more visibility on LinkedIn, and not coming across like those people that just add new connections and then try and sell something? I would never sell something on a new connection, but without coming across like it was, I was purposely trying to do that.
Again, it comes down to the value piece. So let's say I'd done my research and you were next on my hit list. I can send you a message straight away, trying to connect and sell and the rest of it, or I could follow you to start off with. Okay, so I'm not making that connection request to start off with. I'm going to follow you and I'm going to engage with your content to a point where I've been coming up in your notifications as liking your posts and commenting on your posts. Then when you get the connection request, the feeling isn't who is this person? What are they going to sell to me now? The feeling is, can't believe we weren't connected before. And all of a sudden it completely changes that social engagement.
Yeah.
It's a bit like, have you ever, right, there's people in the WhatsApp group that I've never met in person, never, ever, ever met in person, okay? And actually, when we then, turn up at an event at the Chamber Club or whatever it might be, I'm talking to them like I know them really, really well, because we feel like we do. And again, it's taking that social situation online.
Now, fantastic explanation. However, I need to shoot because someone's come for a delivery and I need to go. So thank you very much.
Thanks. I won't take it personally.
Anne-Marie, you've got a question for Christina, if you want to unmute yourself and ask that.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. Hi, Christina. That was really valuable. Honestly, the social media is a little bit of a new domain for me as well. And you keep on talking about your hit list. Now, obviously, I understand the concept that it's the people that you want to target. But can you give us a little bit more information in terms of how would you go and identify? You said you would kind of have a gut feel. Just any sort of guiding tips, lessons to learn, that kind of thing, if it's new to us.
So It really is about understanding the companies you want to work with. Okay, so there's two approaches to my hit list. Okay, and everyone on that, I max it at 10 for myself, and I say to my clients 20 max. Okay, but for myself, I max it at 10, and this is going to be a mix of businesses that I want to bring on board as clients. So I understand who those businesses are, what the businesses look like, but also the person that I need to win over. I think about them as an individual as well.
Yeah.
Okay? So there's that. They're actual clients I want to have.
So may I just, sorry to interrupt you there. Would it be on the basis that you can identify there's a value connection or there's a type of industry? What makes you say that's the person I want to go for, or the company?
So I would look at my existing client base, and I would say, I don't look at who I'm invoicing the most. I look at my list of clients and I say, if I had 100 of that client,
Okay.
Okay, we've got a client at the minute, so she's one of our top 5 clients, but she's really, really hard work. She takes a lot of energy, a lot of time. So she's great when I look at my revenue, but she's not good when I look at my bottom line. Whereas I've got someone that's like number 22 on the list that, you know, God, if I could have 10 like that, I'm laughing. So I think, you know, so it's that bit. The other thing I do with that hit list, I think about, and the way I've written this in my sort of personal strategy plan is who's going to change my life. Okay, so let's say there is, so I'm based in Daventry. Let's say I've just moved here. I don't know anybody at all. Okay, if we think about the people that go networking in the Daventry area, there's going to be like people of influence. Okay, so I've done my research. I found out there's these networking groups going on, and all of a sudden I realized there's this guy called Paul Green, and actually he's really well connected in my area. He needs to go on my hit list, not because I can sell to him, but because actually he can get me in front of the right people. If I engage with his content, his network will see me that I can kind of get the business that way.
Okay.
When I ring up and say, hi, it's Christina, he immediately thinks it's Christina Robinson. There are no other Christina.
I'm sure he does.
I've actually blocked her. She's a bit of a stalker.
Thanks, Christina.
Leela, if you want to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, Christina. My question is, but I've done a course recently about social media, and they was teaching me stuff like don't sell on social media, because if you do that, it's basically you won't get anywhere. And the content as well, make your business more about you as a person and your business's personality. But I've always seen it as do it professional, and other ways to attract businesses. So I just thought I'd ask you, see what your opinion is.
Okay, so we work on an 80-20 rule. Okay, 20% of the content you put out there is the boring stuff that makes you money, i.e. it's your sell.
Yeah.
Okay? Now the sell might be buy this product, buy this service. The sell might be why don't you download this or download that? Because actually what I'm wanting, rather than money, I want your data. I want your first name, last name, email address. Okay, so the 20% is, like I said, the boring stuff that makes you money. If that's all we did, we'd be really boring. People would switch off. No one's going to like our posts other than our mum. Okay?
Yeah, I thought that was the case.
The 80% of the content is, like I say, it's about value. So value is, it's what you want to be known for.
Yeah.
80%. Like I said, I will not call myself an expert. Other people call me an expert. They do that because they see my social media content and I'm talking about the latest changes on LinkedIn and that sort of stuff. I'm talking on LinkedIn, I post about the stats and that kind of thing. So
yeah.
The people in my network, if they want to know something about social media, if they want to know why something isn't working, they'll ask Christina because she's techie, she'll know. I can barely turn a computer on. I get the social media piece, but turning the computer on sometimes is a bit of a challenge. You know? So it's about what you want to be known for, but also in that, I believe and I hope that my personality comes across, which will push some people away because I'm just. But for other people, they're going to go, oh yeah, that is someone I really want to work with. You know, when we're doing like speaking things and that sort of stuff, the feedback I get a lot is, oh, you know, because she's so calm and she makes it so easy, makes it so straightforward, and that's why they come to us. Whereas other people go, yeah, well, you know, when she's talking about it, she doesn't really get into much detail. So maybe she doesn't know her stuff, because I don't go nitty gritty technical.
Okay, thank you.